This has been very timely. It was promised by the end of May, but it's a huge task. So I think the roadmap is accomplished from a UBS point of view. And I think it's overall very positive. If you have such a transaction, then you do it really with speed. That's in the interest of all parties involved. And so far, so good is my comment on this one.
So far, so good. But I mean, again, it's like buying a car where you say, well, that's a beauty. Look, I like that one. That is well too cheap. But then you look under the hood a little bit and you find all kinds of interesting stuff. And then you get it jacked up a little bit higher. And then they point out the rust bubbles. That's someone who had cars in the 70s and 80s, I can assure you, saying that. And all kinds of other issues. And then you look at the clock and you say, oh, has that bit had gone back a little bit on what actually the mileage is? So, yes, I appreciate that the actual overall car looks quite a nice fit for the portfolio, but is it actually going to be that smooth sailing?
Well, it's certainly a challenge, but let's not forget about that car and whatever is under the hood. UBS, due to the emergency operation and the collective failure of policymakers and, of course, of Credit Suisse board, got over a weekend an extraordinarily advantageous deal. So there's so much margin of safety in there in terms of price, in terms of credit lines, in terms of risk sharing with the government, that this is a great deal indeed. But then I think UBS is facing three challenges right now. Very timely today, the closing of the transaction, but just the physical integration of Credit Suisse into UBS target operating model is really a task. And what they put out as red lines in terms of communication, sorry to say, that's standard operating procedure. That's exactly what a bank should do in any case. So that's all good. But that's a task. Then the second task, of course, is the interference and changes coming from our political capital burn. There will be a parliamentary commission of inquiry, an expert commission on banking stability, and then we have federal elections. So the worst is some populist demands and not really addressing some structural deficiencies. And UBS has to deal with the political framework in that context, and that will be particularly painful when there will be job losses, closures of branches across Switzerland. That's a second point. And the third point, not to forget, is the worsening macro backdrop, credit crunch globally, and still the painful working through of significantly higher interest rates, causing, of course, all kinds of casualties and volatility in global capital markets, which is the normal business, not only for Credit Suisse, but of course also for UBS. So these three fronts, it's all about execution risk. Certainly all resources and intentions in place, but the proof is in the pudding, and we will see it well indicated by the share price moving forward.